Okay, so this is part 2 of the previous video that we still have to give a title on. So if I go back to this thing that I wrote here. So actually you said that, like, essentially everybody gets more and more subconscious information, essentially.
Yes.
Yeah? And actually not, you don't only mean through like TV and radio and whatever, and
No.
you actually mean people get more and more sensitive. So, and I said sort of jokingly, is everybody getting more psychic?
I almost want to say yes, but at the same time it's no. When you are able to translate properly, then you could probably call yourself psychic. But you have to realize I don't call myself psychic either.
Yeah. Mm-hmm.
But that part of humanity, every time a generation is born, there's the potential for an expanded capacity for consciousness. There are many things, of course, that are trying to stop that creativity. Creativity has a lot to do with being able to receive information just through the energy. Creativity is very important, but every generation you see it in the children, the capacity, it's not only potential, but the capacity in very young children is very much expanded. So yeah.
Mm-hmm.
And it will actually filter down to the unconscious, but right now subconscious is the most reachable. So if we can get people to just free up their subconscious, then they can get to the layer of unconscious. You see?
I mean, what I'm thinking of right now is like I work at an environment where you have all like rational people, huh? So it's how do they experience this then? I mean, everybody's different, as you said, but like, well, they get voices in their head.
Some people might.
Oh yeah.
And that's the confusion. And I do want to mention that because it's a very interesting, and it will be an integral concept that will be very important for people to start looking at. Look, you have three basic, and I like the three sections. Three basic sections: people who receive messages and are able to translate, people
Mm-hmm.
who receive messages but also create their own message, and there are people who they don't receive outside messages, they create their own messages. Messages could take the form of words or information, or could go as far as um, personalities.
So they sort of communicate with themselves, sort of.
Yes.
Mm-hmm.
And that has to do with the psychiatric side of life.
Mm-hmm.
And I really hope that the doctors somehow also expand their point of view, but that's very difficult. So you have very rational people, like, for instance, I'll pick on mathematicians
Oh well.
that are used to being able to prove things. Very soon, certain things can be proven, but not in the old way.
Mm-hmm.
See? So then you have to open up the mind. And it's very interesting. I spoke to a gentleman. He has a mathematical background, but he literally sees things in structures. And he can feel information. Then turns around, takes that information and translates it into mathematical structures. So there is a way. But then there are other people that sort of run into trouble. Well, how can that be? I don't know. Everyone has to
Ooh,
find their own way to
you
translate.
trigger me a lot with your talk about math, you know.
Yeah.
Yes, yes. Now I have like several questions. I mean, can we go off on a tangent?
Yes,
Yeah.
I'm fine with that.
Okay, like then let's do that. Like because recently, I mean, I'm a mathematician, so I don't know anything about physics. Physics is way too hard for me. Huh? So recently, I've been like getting interested in physics a bit. Huh? Like trying to understand it, and I still don't because I don't know, like too stupid or whatever. But and then I got into like for example, people like um, Einstein, of course, huh? And apparently Einstein wasn't really that good of a mathematician, but he had like some really good physics insight. And so um, was it that like this type of person, did he understand the like how these structures went, so like see it in front of from himself, and then like was able to translate it into like equations then?
I actually, where Einstein, I think, wasn't his wife who helped him with the equations?
Actually, he got help indeed, like he in his wife and also like a friend.
Yes. So what
um
happens is he was able to make a partial translation. He told other people who then were able to make another translation. So
mhm,
there were two layers of translation.
mhm.
So that's like very unusual and just beautiful.
Yeah,
It's similar. Sometimes this is what you're actually trying to do for me too, Stefan.
okay.
It's and other people try. Sometimes it's easier, sometimes it's just like way hard. That I'll get information and I'll go tut 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 tut.
Mhm.
Then someone else has to go and put it into context, because that information, if it's in one layer, it's easier for people to translate it. But if it crosses many layers of frequencies, then there has to be several translation, and it has to go from one layer to the next, to the next, to the next. And I've been told that that's one of the biggest problems, is that I go for the content and I don't have the context completely sorted out, which, yeah, it's frustrating for me, but
Mhm.
still, that's how it comes to me. So perhaps I too am looking for people who are able to make different levels of translations, to bring it and make it a bit more cohesive, so it's in the right context. Because,
So
yeah.
yeah, so actually, so I've recently then seen some videos about like this type of stuff. So you had Einstein, and then also like people who helped him. He essentially like changed a lot of physics, and then like there was a lot of development afterwards because of like his discoveries, huh? And then like somewhere in the I don't know when it was, perhaps the 70s or 80 early 80s, you had some guy called Witten, who then came with the next thing, which became like something which is called string theory, which is like a very popular topic in mathematics. And so actually what I heard somebody say in a video was actually that there was a lot of progress over here, like that really had like serious consequences for society also. Hmm? And then over here, there was a lot of progress like inside string theory essentially, but it was all like mainly theoretical and no like real application things. So like sort of, I don't know if that's a true statement, making me wonder like, is this really what it should be, or should it be something more simple? That's
I think you lost me because I don't know who Witten is, and of course,
yeah, that's true. That's a scientist that like if you if you're a normal person, you don't know who it is at Edward Witten. So like string theories is something that people know. Like this is something like that where they came up with theories that like yeah, well, you have the universe which is 3-dimensional, time is a 4-dimensional, but then to make things fit, we need another 10 dimensions. And then we have string theory, sort of speaking.
Oh.
That kind of stuff. And I got the following feeling. So like you can correct me if I'm wrong, which is probably what is the case, that there should be some actually simpler thing behind this, which is essentially what is known in spiritual terms as like the law of attraction and repulsion. That's the basis of everything.
Okay, law of attraction, how people have translated that is actually become a little bit of a negative.
Mm-hmm. Because you attract bad stuff to yourself then also.
Yeah, and like great wealth and okay. I personally would
I understand what you mean.
wisdom, but most people will go for when they say abundance, they're talking about either financial security and or what that security will buy. It's for many good reasons, you see, but it's still going beyond what the law of attraction is meant to be incorporated in a natural flow, not to pull out, because here we go, the word fragmented. You're fragmenting it from the whole and putting a main focus on a specific movement. It works, but it's not in balance because you're forcing a vibration that's not ready yet. The law of attraction is real, but it is meant to be integrated, not pulled out. And that's what humanity or people have been doing with it. They're using it as, oh, I'll take this piece of the pie and use it to my benefit.
Yeah. So like the law of attraction is often misunderstood. Like,
but I'd like to go back to Einstein and this Witten person. Mm-hmm. I don't know anything. I don't have the brain capacity for string theory. I can see what happens in all the dimensions, but what I wanted to use this to mention is that anything that's on Earth already exists. That's why I loved it when you used the word Einstein discovered. Mm-hmm. If something exists, that knowing with capital K is free to everyone who can translate it into a working, a movement that actually will serve. It sounds like I took off to another.
No, because actually you trigger me. So is string theory discovered or made up?
Discovered.
Okay, so it's really a description of something.
It's a partial, incomplete description, but it is real.
That's interesting. It's so funny that I can ask these type of questions to you about string theory, and you give me an answer that actually no physicist could give me. Like,
physicists will want to have some kind of proof or backup, publication. Me, I just look to see what I know and I share. Mm-hmm. And that is, I think that I'm part of that. All this is free to anyone who can translate it and put it to a useful, serving, working, knowing.
Then do you think actually that this theory is like what in the in the future will be like where the big progress will take place?
And the progress will take place in understanding how of how things work, how life works.
Life works. So not necessarily like from physics, but elsewhere.
Physics is part of life,
Mm-hmm.
so that's okay. That's why I feel so strong. It's correct. At the same time, it's incomplete.
Mm-hmm.
You see, but people will have to understand this and it's coming because people want to understand about dimensions. The
Mm-hmm.
only thing is, again, they fragment the third away from the fourth, away from the fifth, away from the sixth, away from the 12th, away from the 18th.
Mm-hmm.
All that the dimensions are a range of frequencies. So if you were really, 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 really good, you could be experiencing all dimensions all at the same time. And then you would say, oh, there's only one dimension. The only reason why the dimensions are split up is to give people a chance to understand. Like body, mind, spirit, soul, it's supposed to be all one thing. But if we want to completely understand and go deeper, it's easier if you split the parts up. And that's what dimensions are. It's existence split up.
So by the way, so now that we are like we're sort of a spiritual channel, is it actually that there's some progress here which is essentially blocked as long as you don't start taking some spiritual or metaphysical, let's put it this way, stuff into account?
I'm sorry, I didn't hear that last part. Spiritual.
Okay, so like you said, string theory is like not complete,
Yeah.
Is it like not possible to have it complete until you like allow or incorporate a part that's essentially like yes, something metaphysical or spiritual or consciousness like into it?
Yes.
So this thing will never be complete as long as it stays.
It will remain theory.
Mm-hmm.
It will remain a theory until you can experience it. All things are actually theory until you can experience it. And not an illusion or a hallucination, or it is experience it. So in other words, live it. And that's another reason we go to understanding what we are so we could become whole. So we don't just think that's what we are. Because as long as you only think something like nice, behaving nicely doesn't mean that you're nice. Being nice is you live according to what you know. It's inside you. It's a natural flow. Otherwise, it's just behavior. Theories can be very accurate, but if it's not experienced and lived, then it's not much more than just a theory.
So actually, I have a question now. It's just a gut feeling, like, suppose you're now a physicist and you want to really experience or understand string theory,
Yeah.
Do you have to go through this knowing yourself?
In order for it to be only your experience, yes. If you want to go on a vacation and experience it on the wings of someone else, that's also possible. But if you want to experience it
I
for
didn't
yourself,
understand how this links to like string theory as a physicist.
if you want to experience all the dimensions yourself, you have to go to know yourself first. Otherwise, you won't have the fuel
Oh, okay. Yeah.
and the capacity to experience it all.
Okay,
if you
so
want to do
what
it
if you want to
with
understand it from a theoretical point of view? So like that doesn't mean like I want to go into the 8th dimension. I want to like theorize about it.
no, then you just have to have a good mind. My
Okay.
mind is not good enough to theorize about it.
Mm-hmm.
So, but I can experience it.
Okay.
See the difference?
Yeah. I mean, I see the difference quite well. Like, yeah, like I'm not even close, like understanding Einstein, let alone that I ever get to something like this here. So it's
No, but it's nice
but
to
I
know
can
it's
experience
there.
this. I think, like, yeah.
It's nice to know that it exists, and it's also a very nice structure to work towards. But again, we only have to be the best that we are meant to be,
Mm-hmm.
our own specialty.
Yeah.
So somebody's meant to understand string theory, and some people are meant to understand the law of attraction, and
Mm-hmm.
not only its use, but what it really is.
Yeah.
People know, a lot of people know how to use it, but not that many people know what it is.
Yeah, I mean, my gut feeling sort of told me that actually this is actually essentially the same thing as gravity in some sense. Like that similar types of matter attracts each other.
Yes,
It's exactly the same
different.
thing that like similar like frequencies of like situations or feelings attract each other.
Yes,
Mm-hmm.
different application, same law.
So it would be nice to like unify this into one big
Yes,
law. Yeah. Who knows one day.
one day it will be,
Mm-hmm.
and then we can experience one.
Mm-hmm.
The one.
So, I don't know if the quote that is attributed to Einstein is actually of Einstein, but he ever said gravity cannot explain people falling in love, but that's because gravity is here. But if you see it as a part of this, it does.
Yeah.
That's interesting. So, am I allowed to go on a brief tangent from this?
Yes.
Yeah. Okay. So, like, I mean, as I understand it, like Einstein and several others, like, but Einstein is the name that we all know, like, but there's others, perhaps like Bohr or whatever, was like a very intuitive intuitive physicist.
Yeah.
Who sort of like just saw the solutions and then like had to work out like how to go there.
Yes.
Huh? So in physics, there are probably several of those who you can point out who like had this wonderful intuition, which is almost impossible to copy. And in mathematics, I only really know only one example that's really extreme in this case, which is Ramanujan, which we also talked about like a while ago, I think. And this was a mathematician who sort of trained himself. He was an absolute genius, but he actually came up with a lot of formulas and stuff like that. And he couldn't explain how we got them. And they were like really formulas, like which were really like 50 years ahead of his time. It was incredible. Like he surfaced like a complete like branch or branches of mathematics through this. So, and that's, I think, correct me if I'm wrong, the only case of a really intuitive mathematician who just blurted out like absolutely amazing results out of thin air. So my question is, what's the deal with him?
And intuitive is a very acceptable and familiar word. I would say he had a very good receiver.
Mm-hmm.
That's how it worked with him. I would even go as far as saying how he received his formulas is similar to how I received my information,
Mm-hmm.
except his brain power was bigger than mine. His intellect was much stronger than mine.
And I guess that with him, it was only on mathematics.
Mm.
Yeah.
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 That's that was his specialty. I'm not sure what my specialty is.
So have there been other mathematicians, like perhaps not as extreme as him, but similar to
Yes.
him? Can you give me a name?
No.
Because you don't know the name, and then it doesn't come.
I
Huh?
don't know the name. I
Yeah.
don't know the name, but some of them sort of were like murdered, and some didn't understand how that worked and were afraid. That's what I picked up.
So like there were some who never actually got to be known in the mathematical community.
Yes.
So there's no example like this of somebody who then became a professor or whatever.
No, not that I know of, because what I was shown was from long time ago.
Long before him, like, yeah.
Yeah.
So now we get to the slippery part. So stop me if the questions get too deep or too like intrusive. Are there any like such cases like yeah, coming up now, or like being young kids now, or perhaps young mathematicians or otherwise?
The ones that exist now are not clean and not free. Now we're
Which
heavy on the spiritual part, but you asked a question, I decided to answer.
what do you mean not clean?
When somebody's information is clean, they are in servitude of the whole of
Ah.
creation.
Mhm.
When I say not clean, they have connections and also get support and information from intelligent energies
Mhm.
that have their own agenda.
Ah, okay. So like, I don't know. Yeah, anyway.
Yeah, we don't want to talk about, yeah.
And not today. Okay, so this guy really was like yeah, a very extreme exception in the history of
um,
mathematics.
yeah, that he was alive and could bring that information. And
Mhm.
actually, the most interesting part for me was that he received information in a similar way as I do.
Mhm.
So that's
Yeah, yeah.
interesting for me.
Yeah, I mean, it's really, really amazing, like the stuff that he brought forth. Like that's yeah, I mean, I can't explain anything right now, and I don't want to, but yeah, yeah, he's really exceptional insight. Like all of these smart people that you have in mathematics, the way that he worked, nobody worked like him. So that's a really fascinating figure. Like that. Mhm. Okay, yeah.
I
So
don't even think that very many people could keep up with him. If I'm
no,
correct, his brain and his information translation went so fast that not very many people, if anyone, could keep up with him.
no, that was the case. Like he spewed out theorems, and then like people devoted their lives on like a theorem that he wrote down like on Tuesday. And it's like for him it was Tuesday. Yeah. No, but so it's a pity that there's no young Ramanujans right now. That would be really interesting to see that occurring at some point.
There are the possibilities, but somehow they all got. Yeah, we'll talk about those types of things some other time.
Good, good. Yes. So perhaps like we stopped the video because we've
Yes.
we've been chatting for quite a while, but it was very interesting. It was nice to go off on a tangent. Like
Yes, I liked it. Thank you, Stefan. I like this.
it's an entertaining video. Not that I think anybody really can do something with it, except for of course the first part here, which is actually the first video. Huh? Then,
Oh, you'd be surprised. The feeling is that people will look at this and it seems removed from spirituality, but actually it's not. This is very spiritual.
Yeah, there's something tickling me also with regard to this. But let's first end the video and then
Yes,
okay, thank you very much.
you're welcome.